Hey there, it's Angela and Colleen with Homes and Loans.
How's
We
it
are
going?
back. Yeah, I'm sorry, I always cut her off. Okay, so here's Colleen.
Hey everyone, I'm
And
Colleen Mitchell.
I'm Angela Jaspon, and again, we are talking about homes. So we're talking about the real estate side of things and loans, how we're getting those deals done.
Yeah.
And today we are talking about, let's hear it, Colleen.
We're just going to talk about listings and how long, what's the average
Okay.
it's taking right now for homes to be sold, and what are you doing specifically to market your listings to
What's
try and
happening?
attract buyers? Because I think that's what I'm hearing from a lot of agents is I got all these listings, but they're sitting there.
I'm right there with you. So, and I will tell you, you know me as an agent. I have several listings right now. They're priced correctly. They're move-in ready. We are doing, advertising, postcards, social media, Zillow showcase, open houses, ad spend online, doing all of these things. And it's just a combination, I think, currently, where right now, on average, homes are sitting 45 to 60 days in general. And then it can be longer depending on the location or the neighborhood, things like that. But in general, we're seeing things are sitting, and I think it's a combination of not as much inventory and where the interest rates are. So now we're trying to think of creative ways on top of what we're already doing to help our clients, and that's where I refer to you.
And I feel like, and you probably see this with your sellers, that why am I not getting my price? I don't want to lower it. So if you don't want to do a price reduction, we got to think of some out of the box strategies to try and attract more buyers. So one thing is what we call a temporary buy down. So let's say today the rate is 6.25. Rates are definitely on the trending down. So if the rate is 6.25 and you do a 2-year buy down, that means for the first 2 years you'll pay a lower interest rate. So the first year it would be 4.25, 5, then the second year 5.25, and then it would go to 6.25. So
that first year, your payment is going to be based on an interest rate of 4.25. So your payment will be a lot less for that entire year.
Right. So your note rate would actually be the 6.25. So where does that difference come from, right? So there is a fee, and we basically take the difference of the interest rate between 4.25 and 6.25, and then 5.25 and 6.25, and whatever that difference is, that's the cost. So whether the seller wants to pay it, which would be a great marketing tool to try and move your listing, or the buyer could pay it.
Which is just so people understand what we generally see in the situation that she's talking about is exactly that. The seller agrees to pay it, or the builder agrees to pay it if we're working with a builder.
Or the buyer.
I mean, the buyer can, but I very rarely see that the buyer do that. Generally, the buyer is asking the seller for a credit to do that so that they can buy their home and get in at a price that is reasonable for them right now, knowing that down the line it is going to lock in at the higher rate. But, for now, that's what they need, right? Because they're hoping maybe interest rates go down and maybe they refinance or, all different things.
Well, the great thing about the temporary buy down is, well, first, we have to qualify you on the note rate. So you're being qualified at 6.25. But that money that you're paying for the temporary buy down goes into your escrow account. So every month we're pulling from that. Let's say next year rates really drop and the client wants to refinance and they're like, well, what about all that money in there? So whatever's left over from your buy down is then credited to your payoff. So you never lose that money and you still have the option to refinance. And I think those that are taking the temporary buy down are taking it hoping that by the time it increases, rates will come down and then you can refinance.
That's what I'm thinking.
So it's a great option to ease yourself into that higher payment because, obviously with rates going up, I mean, they are trending down, but when we were in the rates of 3%, 4% for the longest time, it makes it a little more difficult when you've got rates, 7%. We even got high sevens for a bit.
Explain to people how the difference in, say, a rate from 5 to 6 or 6 to 7, how much does that change their buying power?
So depending on the loan amount, like I've seen my clients save $400 or $500 a month. I mean, you're talking 2%. So that first year, you can save quite a bit on your monthly payment.
And here's the reason why I'm trying to get to why that's important, because you think about if 5 years ago when interest rates were at 3%, you may have qualified for a home at $500,000, right? And now if they're at 6%, you're qualifying at how much? 350, 400. Like, how much is it changing your buying power?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. So anybody that like years ago when rates were so low, I mean, you could probably qualify for a home for 450, and
Yeah.
now it's probably more about, high twos, 300,000,
Yeah.
because that, when you're talking about doubling interest rate,
Exactly.
that doubles your interest payment.
Yeah, exactly.
So it makes a huge difference. I mean, I feel
That's why
like
it's so important for people to know about the buy down, because you think about that gives you your buying power back.
Right.
Right. And you don't have to do just a 2-1 buy down. You can buy
can
down
do
the
it
interest rate for the whole term of the loan, correct? So it's
well,
more expensive.
you're talking about a permanent buy down.
Yes.
So a permanent buy down, is way more expensive. I think I ran one the other day. Somebody said, "Tell me what the interest rate would be, or what the points would be on a 5% rate."
And
And
when it's like at 6.25, right? So you're
Yes,
buying it down
so
1.25%. Just
it was
keep that
like
in mind.
5 points. So that's 5%,
Yes.
of a purchase price, or it's based on the loan amount. So 5% of your loan amount you'd be using to buy down your rate to 5%.
So for people, for example's sake, if you're saying 500,000 times 5%, that you're looking at, $25,000
$25,000
to buy down that
Yeah.
rate from 6.25 to 5%. Just so people understand it.
Correct.
And then, but on the other side of that, say the seller does agree to pay that $25,000 instead of doing a price reduction.
They could
right?
do a permanent buy down.
They could do a permanent buy down. And then I believe, now check with your accountant, but I believe when you pay the points to buy something down, isn't that a tax write-off?
If the seller pays it?
Yes.
That I don't know.
I
We'd have
believe
to
it
check.
is. That's another Siri,
I guess they
ChatGPT,
would be,
Google question,
because
but I'm almost positive it is.
because you're going to write that off on your taxes as an
Exactly.
expense when you sold the property.
Exactly.
So I would say yes.
So that's why I always think that's a better idea than just doing a $25,000 price reduction, because
correct.
you're going to get a better payment at a much better interest rate. The seller is going to get the tax deduction instead of just taking less for the property. So at least they're getting some kind of benefit out of it, right?
Right. And I have noticed, just looking at different listings, that a lot of them have some sort of seller concession.
Yes.
Whether it's the buy down or a credit towards closing costs or replacing carpet. I mean, most listings I'm seeing some sort of incentive.
I'm seeing that all day long because, again, like I said, listings are sitting, from 30 to 60 days in general. And so whenever a buyer, they might not understand that that's actually a balanced market now. The sellers aren't doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with the property. That's just a balanced market in the current market, right?
Right.
But they see it and they're like, it's been sitting 50 days.
They're desperate.
There must be something wrong. And, we want a credit, a buy down, and, everything
Or I'm going to
repaired.
offer 50,000 lower,
So
I see a lot of that.
And so they have that sort of upper hand, but on the other hand, I don't see sellers agreeing to it all. I mean, they're like, no, there's nothing wrong with it. But they will generally concede with giving some sort of seller concession or credit, which is what I'm saying, because they do want to get it sold.
Correct.
Not everyone wants to wait 90 days, to get it closed. So they want to go under contract and
what
move
is
on.
the average?
What, seller credit?
No. What's the average homes are sitting on the market?
Oh,
now.
I would say at least 60 days.
Okay.
It is slower,
60 days. Okay.
I would say about 60
I
days.
honestly thought it would be a little more.
Yeah, well, you know what the thing is? Sadly, what I've been seeing lately is a couple different things. One is we are seeing a lot of first-time home buyers in the market, which is great, but then it's not great because they go under contract and then they do the inspection and then they're a nervous Nelly and then they back out. And so now the seller has taken the property off the market. Everyone thinks something's wrong with it. We got to put it back on the market. So that's a really tough one that I've seen happen several times.
So do you personally, when you have a buyer, try to get that home inspection done quickly then?
Oh, I always do.
Yeah.
But I know my buyers. Like I don't, generally my clients are from referrals. So I have like a relationship, or we've like built a relationship, and I ask a lot of in-depth questions to make sure they're ready. And dealing with so many buyers, and you're great with first-time buyer programs, and I explain that to them, but I want them to understand everything that goes into owning a home.
Right.
Because it's great. You want everyone to have their own home. Everyone should. I wholeheartedly believe that.
Overwhelming. It's very overwhelming for a first-time home buyer.
But when you go from, say, renting a property where you don't have any real responsibility outside of paying your payment, right, to being responsible for everything, whether that be the landscaping, the HOA, if something breaks down, your insurance, making sure your taxes are paid, understanding escrow, all of it, understanding closing costs. It's a lot for someone new to this to grasp sometimes.
Right.
And so it can become overwhelming, which I totally understand. But that's why it's for us to, explain everything and educate to you and just make sure you're 100% comfortable. Because the last thing I want is anyone to be, house poor.
Right.
Where, where you're living paycheck to paycheck just to own something. No, I'd rather you take your time, save your money, be ready.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm actually doing a loan right now for a client who's rented the home for 5 years, and the owner wants to sell it. And so he's like, I want to buy it.
Oh, that's great.
And so I run all the numbers, first time home buyer, and he sees the payment and he's like, wow, that's so much more than my rent.
Yeah.
And he's like, how do I get that lower? Mm-hmm. It's just where we are right now.
Yeah.
However, when you start adding in, you'll be able to write the interest off on your taxes and
you're going to build
property
equity.
taxes. So it's going to be more monthly, but it's yours, and they've been there 5 years. So, but definitely when you're a first time home buyer and you're renting and then you see what all goes into your loan and the monthly cost.
What that payment
includes.
includes.
So it's really important that when you get pre-approved, make sure your lender is giving you those numbers, because I get really surprised when I speak to a client and they said, well, I've already been pre-approved. Well, what loan program? Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't know. Did you get an estimate? No, all I got was the letter.
Yeah.
We have to make sure. Which
doesn't break down anything.
Yeah, it doesn't. Do you know what your payment is? No.
Do you know how much you're going to have to bring in?
Exactly. And this was just last month with a client. And I said, so then I ran the payment. And oh my God. Like, you have to know your numbers. You have to know your numbers.
Yeah, I do find that when I talk to sometimes first-time home buyers, I'm like, okay, well, how much do you have saved for the down payment? And they're like, huh? I'm like,
yeah.
So, well, are you doing you planning to put on 3.5% or 5% or 20%?
Are you getting any gifts?
Yeah, and that's usually when they don't have it. That's when we're having that conversation. Like,
right.
You get a gift, you get a 401k. What how are you planning to do this?
Right.
So all interesting stuff for sure.
Do you need down payment assistance? I mean, that's
which
always
a lot
an
of
option.
first-time buyers do.
Right.
Yeah.
They can. It's just depending on, like, I have one right now. They're having to get gift funds because they don't meet the minimum 640 credit score to get the assistance program. So you got to know how much you need for closing, and you got to know your monthly expense.
Of course. Well, again, this is why we're talking about, the current market and, what we can do to kind of, if you're a seller, to differentiate your listing.
Right.
Instead of doing an instant price reduction, sometimes it's better to find ways to help your buyer get into the house when their biggest deterrent may just be the interest rate, because that's what's keeping their payment high. Right. So, and the same thing, you on your side helping buyers, like, okay, if we can get the interest rate to this, we're going to have your real estate agent ask for this much in a credit or do a rate buy down. Now, I know in the past when I've done loans with Colleen and I had the listing side, we could I could pay for an option for my seller and lock in the rate ahead of time. You want to tell them about
the
that
list and lock.
Yes, list and lock.
So the list and lock would be for any listing agent that wants to offer an incentive. Mm-hmm. So basically at CMG, if you do the list and lock program, your seller can contribute 2%, 1%, and CMG will contribute 1%. And we can either lock the rate up front for 60 days, or we can float the rate. And if they use CMG, we will offer that 1%.
Additional towards buying down the rate.
Exactly.
Just so people understand.
So if the seller, let's say, pays 2%, CMG pays 1%, that's going to lower your interest rate by maybe 3/4 to a point.
Which is huge.
Which is huge on qualifying, and that would be a permanent rate buy down.
Yeah, that's not like we were talking about earlier about for 1 to 2 years. This is across the board for the total life of your loan. So, again, that makes a big difference, because what people fail to understand, and this is one thing that drives me crazy. Sorry, people, I'm going to call you out, okay? If you are a buyer and you see a property that's at $525 and you're like, I want a $25,000 credit. Okay, I want to pay $500, not $525. And then I tell you, okay, pay the $525 and have them buy down the rate instead. Your payment will be less on $525 than it will be on $500. Take my advice. Yeah. I know what I'm doing. I am thinking about your best interest. it does not, me telling you to buy at the higher price is not because I want you to buy at the higher price. Because if you're telling me your payment is the most important thing, then that's what I'm focused on, getting you the best payment.
Right. And we have flyers too for listing agents if you want to be
yours,
able
it
to
shows you the
show
adjustment,
the
the
difference
in
between
payment.
a $500,000 purchase price or a $525,000 with a credit buying down the rate. It totally makes sense to go with the higher price and do the permanent rate buy
You'll
down.
be shocked if you looked at the difference on the example that I'm giving you, right? So
Right.
say it's 500,000 at 6.5
Right.
versus 525 at 5.25 or 5%. 6 or
Yeah,
whatever it is,
absolutely.
0.75 less. It's drastically different on your monthly payment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
keep that in mind, people.
Good stuff.
Keep that in mind. But again, we're here to help. If you guys have questions on any of this, if you have ideas or you want to help us think out of the box,
Yeah.
we're open to
Oh,
it.
yeah. Any subjects you want to hear, just
we want to
feel
cover
free to
them
reach
for
out
you.
to us.
Yeah, we're here to help and share our stories and what we've done in the past. And like I said, so
We got lots of stories.
That's for sure. Those are a couple that definitely stand out.
Yeah.
Doing the rate buy down is something that's really helpful. We don't see enough of it. And I think that's because people are just caught in that whole mindset of I want to get the best price.
Well, I think that when
it's
rates
costing them more.
first started jumping up, like 7%, over 7, we were seeing a lot of temporary buy downs.
Yeah.
But now that rates are starting to come down, we're not seeing as much. But I am seeing the last 3 contracts that I've received have all had seller credits
Yes.
for buyers' closing costs. So it's out there. So if you need that
And
assistance,
just so you know,
now's the
I'm
time.
seeing seller credits, and it's not necessarily for closing costs or to buy down the interest rate. It's just most sellers are set on selling as is right now, just so you
Right.
understand. And so if you come back after an inspection and say, oh, well, this needs to be repaired and that needs to be repaired and the flooring and the carpet and whatever, the AC is 10 years old, most sellers are just going to offer you a credit these days. They don't want to go in and fix and make selections. They just want to move forward. So just be prepared for that as well.
Right. I had a call yesterday. She was already getting 3% from the seller for closing costs, but then there were a bunch of repairs. So she wanted more of a credit. And I said, no, just have them fix it. They
Yeah.
pay for it at closing. You still get that thing fixed and you still get your 3%. So there's other ways to work around scenarios like that. Just
And again, you have to
consult
be
with
aware.
your lender.
Yeah, you
first.
also have to be aware different loan programs have different caps on how much you can receive.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But that's why you have us, so we can
Yeah.
tell you these things. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed listening. As always, please like, share, subscribe. We want to, have you continue to follow us, give us topics that interest you, and we'll be back next time.
Sounds good.